He's still at the house.
I need $1 million because I'm still living at home.
He's still at the house, so I see him every day. That's one thing.
That's why I need to win, because I need to get out the house. It's been 22 years.
Mama can't cut the cord. Focus on the prize and not on the honey or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
You can call her later, or
Yeah, keep in mind on
call
me.
her when you move out. Call her when you move out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
I would look at Keith if I didn't know anything about him and think, you are dead in this game. But the minute he opens his mouth and you start to talk to him, you think, I like you a lot. I want to keep you around.
You instill some values in him early, Southern values, and hope like hell he takes it to adulthood, and other than that, we really ain't got a plan.
Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story that has you rooting for someone and against someone else in hopes that it all ends in a satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time they're introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will look at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. Now, for reference, we are only going to be observing what the TV show is showing us and what story is being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story and characters here have no idea about what happens in those future seasons. Secret scenes and behind the scenes footage may be included to flesh out the story, and all character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. And now with that,
39 days, 18 people, 1 survivor.
Season 29, Blood vs. Water 2, has Survivor back in Nicaragua for the third time ever in the same exact spot in the country as those prior seasons. Why? I've been pretty open about this, but as a reminder, I don't find seasons 21 and 22 of Survivor to be beautiful. In fact, they're visually boring. They're probably the most boring looking locations ever. But Survivor's back here for whatever reason. Not only is the location back, but also the twist of loved ones playing together only 2 seasons after the last time they did this. And as we remember, Sierra committing a war crime we can't forget when she voted out her own mom. This time we are following Keith Nale, a 53-year-old firefighter from Louisiana who I am 99% sure is only here playing because his son Wes wants to play. Not that Keith doesn't want to be here, I just think he might have seen a few seasons at best and he watched them very casually, whereas his son is more of a super fan. So let's meet them. Let's meet Keith and Wes.
Wes, have you already lost a striker?
Here's 2 votes.
We lost our striker for our Flint Rock, and I'm pretty sure it was him. Man, you got to quit laying stuff in the sand.
You laid it down. It's showtime for me, I think.
Showtime for you.
I got social aspect, physical aspect, mental aspect. I feel like I got it all.
You're about as mentally strong as that rock.
So I am guessing what the show is telling us here is that Keith is the smart one and Wes is the dumb one, right? That's what I'm gathering. I also need to mention that Exile Island is back for the first time since season 18, and when everyone meets each other, people find Wes losing the striker a hilarious story. But then we see Keith and Wes split up as Keith is on the blue Hunapu tribe and Wes is on the orange Coyopa. We then get our first duel for reward. It is Jeremy versus Val, and Jeremy wins it for Keith's tribe. However, since he has won, he has to send his wife to exile, and he also sends
me.
Yeah. And why is that?
Because I know he knows how to start fire. I know he's an outdoors guy, and he could take care of her.
This is the guy who lost the striker and broke the flint.
It wasn't his fault, it was his son's fault.
Oh, bull!
You seem emotional.
I am. I'm emotional for them. I see what they're going through. I don't know, I hate to leave, and just like him and her, and but we'll make it work.
Keith goes to exile and says, it sucks not being able to meet and bond with my tribe, but then him and Val each get to pull from a vase. We see Keith get nothing and Val gets an idol clue. Val says, I'm not sharing this with Keith. And Keith says, well, I guess that note was for Val specifically and not for me since I don't know what it was. I mean, come on, Keith, get with the program here. But then Keith's tribe wins immunity and Jeremy says, hey, I owe you one, dude.
I owe you anyways for taking care of it. Listen, I owe you. I owe you.
it wasn't no chore.
I pulled you out,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna get you right back in.
Back
You know what I
in.
mean? And you're in.
I got Jeremy kind of halfway on my side, I would think. He's a firefighter. I'm a firefighter. I mean, fire department's a brotherhood. Now the other, 7? I have no idea about. Give me a day or two and we'll figure all this out.
That is it for the premiere, and so far Keith seems super likable and in my opinion is not really in tune with what the game is. Like, I'm sure he gets the general premise, but I don't think he knows how to play it. Not that that is bad by any means, but knowing that he is basically learning this game as he goes is important as we evaluate his strategic play. He's a great character so far though. By the way, did you know that Patreon is free to sign up for? Yep, the place where I give updates, post videos early, and have you all pick what I make now has a free option. Link in the description, you can cancel anytime, and there's a 15% discount if you do sign up for 1 year to financially support us. Thank you for your support. Episode 2 sees Keith's tribe has lost the flint. But how? Did Wes sneak over and lose it for them? They're like, oh crap, we need fire, and I'm not sure how else we will be able to start one here out in the forest. I guess none of them have any fire making skills because without the flint, basically they say they're done. So they go to the reward challenge where Julie wins the duel for them, and then Reed tries to strike up a deal with Jeff.
Jeff, we have a kind of a not traditional situation that we'd like to propose to you. Okay. Our tribe seems to have misplaced our flint. And so we were wondering if we could potentially barter with you and take the fishing equipment, but trade you the beans for our flint.
Walk me through this from a negotiation standpoint. You're the ones who need to make the deal. My life is fine. So you come in, survey the scene, see what the reward is, and then offer me the thing of least value. Probably a half a bag of beans at this point, I'm guessing. I got one offer for you if you want to make it, and that is you give up all this fishing gear. No. What's the decision?
We got guaranteed protein. Fire.
All right, we'll leave the fishing gear behind. You'll have a new flint waiting for you back at camp.
Jeff is so annoyed, and it won't be the last time this season. Oh no, this will not be the last time. Their tribe does go on to win immunity, and in episode 3, Drew is slacking around camp. And if there's something you need to know about Keith, it's that he loves to spit and he hates slacking. He says if Wes was as lazy as Drew, he would get spanked. But then we go to the reward challenge duel where it is Keith versus Wes, father versus son, and
Son would love to beat father, and Pop would love to remind his son that with age comes a lot of experience and wisdom. Wes wins! Reward!
Tie fight. I like to see it.
You're emotional again.
Yeah, well, I mean, to see him coming along, as a young man, shoot.
You're proud of him.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
I've only seen him like him when my great-grandpa died and his grandfather died.
Hey, we're good. We're good.
Keith is going back to exile, but this time he knows the note is a clue to an idol back at his camp. He gets the clue and he shares it with Josh, and while hanging out on exile, Josh says, look at us. It's unlikely we ever would have hung out in the outside world, but here we are, getting along just great. And Keith says, I like Josh, but we're not going to be spooning tonight. His tribe then goes on to win immunity, and in episode 4, you will never believe this, but that flint that they lost, oh, they find it. They find it unused in the fire pit. What are the chances? Drew says we should trade this back to Jeff for that fishing gear, and the rest of the tribe says no way. Jeff's not going to agree to that. So, at the reward challenge,
Jeff, one thing before we get going.
Wait, do you have the flint in your hand?
Nobody else on my team really had the courage to bring this up to you. So we actually found our other flint. This one hasn't been
fantastic.
And I was wondering if there's some reasonable trade we could do.
Oh my gosh.
So now, because this one is still brand new, basically straight out of the box, you want to make a return. Well, it sounds reasonable.
Exactly.
Right.
I feel like you're taunting us.
I am taunting you. Put the flint back. You made the trade. Good effort.
I mean, Drew's not wrong. What's the harm in asking? John wins reward for their tribe and back at camp, but we see Keith looking for the idol. Now he doesn't find it. So he starts telling people, Jeremy must have it. What? Number 1, Jeremy doesn't have the idol. We know this. But an even more important number 2 is that people tell Jeremy what Keith said, and instead of wanting to work with Keith now Jeremy is mad at him. This is a rookie mistake. But then Keith says, maybe I didn't look hard enough the first time. So he goes back out and searches.
Maybe I wasn't due north or 7 steps. So I just poked and prodded around a little more. Thought it had done been found, but obviously not. Matter of fact, it just kind of jumped out at me, kind of scared me. not a brain surgeon, but if everybody thinks Jeremy has it, that could be good for me.
He has the idol, which is great, but in the process, he lost an ally in Jeremy. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Their tribe goes on to lose immunity, and Keith doesn't know what I'm about to tell you, but Drew actually threw the immunity challenge so that they would lose because he wants to get rid of some of the snakes on this tribe, as he says. Those are his words, not mine. Now, who's the snake he wants out the most? Wentworth. But Jeremy actually sees an opportunity to go for Keith. We then go to Tribal, where Jeremy fights with Keith and points out how he blew up their alliance. It makes Keith look bad, but in a weird way. It also shows that Keith is not good at this game and isn't a threat. But then they all go to vote out Wentworth, since that's who Drew threw the immunity challenge to get out, and
First vote, Julie. Keith. Julie. 2 votes, Julie. Kelly. Drew. 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 4th person voted out of Survivor Blood versus Water. Drew. Drew. Tribe has spoken.
Keith voted Julie. I mean, he was way out of the loop on this one. But then in episode 5, we get a tribe swap. Keith is now on Coyopa and Wes is on Hunapu. In worse news, Keith is the lone wolf on his tribe, as everyone else now has their loved one with them. Fun. So we go back to camp, where Keith evaluates his new position in the game.
Brand new tribe. It is a little bit weird being odd man out, which I don't know. I mean, it's a mom and a daughter. It's a daddy and a daughter, and it's a guy and a girlfriend. I'm kind of in a rock and a hard place. I might be by myself, but you know, I got a little idol. Matter of fact, it's in my boot. If all else fails, I got the backup plan.
Basically, he needs to step aside and avoid making waves and being the easy vote off. Their tribe loses immunity in a blowout, and back at camp, there is a rivalry in full swing. Missy and Baylor versus Dale and Wentworth, with Keith, John, and Jacqueline in the middle. So at Tribal Council, they all go to vote, and
5th person voted out of Survivor Blood versus Water. Kelly. Oh. Kelly. Tribe has spoken.
Drew was just 1 episode late. If he was here for episode 5, he would have seen Wentworth go, but no, he had to get himself voted off earlier instead. Episode 6 sees Baylor lose their tribe reward, and in a scene that I think is very telling about Keith versus everyone else in the season, we see everyone else strategizing and talking endlessly about the game. And yeah, we go over to Keith, and he's just like, I'm trying to catch fish, but they keep stealing the bait off my hook. It's quite annoying. Good job, Keith. I know it's unintentional, but just keep flying under the radar. Their tribe loses immunity, and Keith says, I only need to survive 1 more vote to make the merge. So hopefully we can get Dale voted off without needing to use my idol. That's the plan anyways. So at Tribal, they all go to vote, and
First vote, Dale. Missy. That's 1 vote Dale, 1 vote Missy. Keith. Keith. That's 2 votes Keith. Dale. We're tied. 6th person voted out of Blood versus Water. Dale. Dale. The tribe has spoken.
that was way too close. Back at camp, Missy explains to Keith why they voted him, and he says, there's no need to lie. Just be honest with me and I will respect that. He then says, I am completely over Missy and Baylor, which by the way is a sentiment a lot of the cast share with him. But then their tribe finally gets the tree mail that says it's time to merge. Keith is finally reunited with his son, who seems to be his only solid alliance in this game. Everyone then enjoys the merge feast, they get a good night's rest. The next morning, the sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and is Keith forgetting something important?
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Josh.
First person to tell me that.
Wesley's birthday today. Matter of fact, I woke up this morning and forgot all about it. Here you go, happy birthday. There you go. Roast your crab. Enjoy your crab in Nicaragua. Yeah, I did forget for a minute, but no big deal. I finally remembered, wish him happy birthday, and everything's good. Happy birthday right here on the beach.
Keith might be Father of the Year material. So do you remember the massive merge feast they all had the day prior? Well, everyone brought that leftover food back to camp, and yeah, it's all gone, except the trail mix. They can't seem to find it, and they know someone has to have it. It is an obsession as everyone looks and looks, and lo and behold, it's in Julie's bag. And because they found it in her bag, she is treated like a leper because she was keeping it from them. Keith isn't doing this, mind you, this is just the tribe in general. So we go to the immunity challenge, where
This challenge is on. Jeremy out of nowhere, and just like that, Missy is out of the challenge. Julie drops out of the challenge. Reed's ball starts to move. Reed can't recover. It's on the move again. She can't recover this time. Baylor's out. Jacqueline's ball is on the move. Nice save by Jacqueline, but she can't do it again. Huge gust of wind. Natalie can't do it. Josh, just like that, is out of the challenge. John is out of the challenge. We're down to father and son. It is Keith and Wes. Wes is out. Keith wins first individual immunity. Safe tonight at Tribal Council, cannot be voted out of this game.
Not only did Keith forget his son's birthday, he made sure to beat him for immunity too. Back at camp, a lot of people want to vote off Jeremy since he wants to target couples, and at the moment, couples outnumber singles 8-4. Keith says voting on Jeremy sounds like a good plan to him, but then something strange happens. Julie has been isolating herself from the tribe, and then randomly, Jeff Probst shows up and says, hey, Julie's quitting the game, and she doesn't want to tell you herself, so no tribal since Julie quit. Okay then, we go to episode 8 where Keith and Wes's team wins reward, and while on said reward, Natalie tries to talk strategy, and Keith says he's glad tribal got skipped in the last episode because he was going to vote off Julie. However, Jeremy knows better and says, I know Keith is lying, but at least he's trying to play the game. But back to Keith and Wes as the tacos are too tempting.
Take it easy, slow and steady. Wins the race, yeah.
Oh my God.
2 more, and he's gonna be sick. 2 more of them babies.
Like I'm really worried about that.
Wes is a good kid. He ain't been in jail yet, but he does make some mistakes.
Oh,
That's my boy overloading over there. Who the heck raised him? I'm sitting right here. Yeah, I don't his mama. I don't know. God, dog.
He tried warning him. Jeremy says, I don't like Wes and Keith. They're crude and they lack manners. Around women, you shouldn't be like this. Geez, Jeremy, Wes is just trying to overeat on some tacos. Is it that bad? Back at camp, everyone is working hard. Well, everyone, except Baylor is working hard, I should say. Baylor is the daughter of Missy, and she is kind of a brat. And what's worse is that her mom constantly defends her bratty behavior and doesn't try to help her fit in with the others. Keith says, if I had a kid as lazy as Baylor, I would have spanked them 7 times today. That's a very specific number, which prompts Baylor's mom to say men as a whole are chauvinistic. Jeremy then wins immunity, saving his neck, and the new plan is to vote off Baylor in what should be a landslide vote. Missy then talks to Keith, and
Can't you sway them, Keith?
Well, here it is. And I hate to be blunt, but Baylor don't do. You know that. Baylor sleeps and she goes over there and eats. I've been here 6 days and I've seen her with 1 stick of wood in her hand. And y'all they just don't want to tell you, Missy. I'm telling you. I'm just the facts, Missy.
I've been through this gunning for Baylor thing for a while now, and I got my ear bent already today by Keith. Baylor doesn't do anything.
Not great, Keith. Not great. Don't do that. These people are going to be on the jury. We then go to Tribal Council where Missy goes on another anti-men rant about how they all fart, belch, and spit around camp. Keith says, this ain't the Hilton, it's Survivor. These things are to be expected, Missy. So they all go to vote off Baylor, and
First vote, Baylor. Baylor. 2 votes Baylor. Josh. Josh, we're tied. Josh, that's 3 votes Josh. 3 votes Baylor. That's 4 votes Baylor. We're tied again. That's 5 votes Baylor. We're tied. 7th person voted out, the first member of our jury. Josh. Josh, the tribe has spoken.
John and Jacqueline flipped. It was supposed to be 7-4 to get out Baylor, and instead they made it 6-5 to get out Josh. I mean, I don't blame them, but this is a big hit to Keith's game. However, we go back to camp, and Keith is annoyed that once again, people lied to him, specifically this time, John and Missy.
You 2 jumped ship quick. John's been lying to me for 18 days. We just haven't lined up. Missy's been lying to him about 17 days.
Part of the game.
Hey, roger that. That's the way I feel. It didn't go our way tonight. John and Jacqueline flipped over there again with them, and we're in a bad place. They could pick us off one at a time. As soon as you step back here, the couples deal was over, because that didn't last long with you. Remember the word couples?
Not when you jumped over with your son like that.
My son is my couple. I have the idol. Thing about that's playing it at the right time. to maybe get one of them out.
I mean, Keith, obviously Missy wasn't going to vote off Baylor. She's no Sierra Easton. Being annoyed at John, though, is totally justified. So get this, Baylor goes on to win immunity, and the tide is quickly turning, as since Keith doesn't have a solid alliance, people are eyeing him and Wes as potentially easy, no-frill vote-offs. Reed even looks through Keith's bag to see if he has an idol, and sure enough, he finds the idol note, and now everyone knows that Keith has an idol, which sure, is not great, but it does make people reconsider if Keith is that easy of an option to vote off. At Tribal Council, Jacqueline complains that Keith nor Wes have ever tried to talk strategy with her, and Wes is like, what the heck? What have I done? You haven't tried talking to us either. Why is this all on me? This is a two-way street. Sometimes you have to send a text to get a text. So they all go to vote, and
8th person voted out, the 2nd member of our jury, Jeremy. Jeremy, the tribe has spoken.
that was a close one. Keith says he was surprised not by him getting votes, but by Jeremy being voted off, since Keith thought Reed was their target. Reed then talks to Keith and says the biggest target in this game is John now, but we need to blindside him because we know John has an idol. He then tells Keith that everyone wants to split their votes between you and your son Wes because they want to flush out that idol. Reed says that him and Alec are going to pretend to be on John's side. They want him out, they're going to blindside him, so they need to pretend to be on his side. But in all actuality, they're with Keith. That's the plan anyways. Keith doesn't fully understand, but he gets that they're targeting John, and that's enough for him. Reed says Keith doesn't get the intricacies of this game. We then go to the immunity challenge where John drops out first for some candy and claims he wouldn't have lasted much longer anyways. And Keith is baffled that a 26-year-old man who is in John's shape is somehow claiming that he is worse in challenges than Keith, who's 53. But then Jeff offers chicken wings and
Nat, there's your team sitting right over there.
So then what is it about your son that made him drop?
Yeah, Wes, I don't know, maybe a food weakness. I'll have a little father-son with him after we get through with this.
I ate 58 chicken nuggets in 5 minutes on the eating contest once.
You ate how many whats and won what?
58 chicken nuggets in 5 minutes.
And you won the
Eating nugget contest.
eating nugget competition? Is that an annual event?
I've never heard of it.
You can pass that up, man. What about the episode of 2.5 Men when you were naked cooking pancakes or something? Or
Cooking bacon?
bacon.
Right. That was fun.
That's awesome, dude. I love that show.
Wes and Keith are definitely the comic relief of this season. Questionable strategic play combined with them just being themselves, good or bad. Keith does end up dropping out after his feet turn purple and go numb, and Reed wins immunity. They then go to Tribal Council where Reed is playing up how he is in the majority and definitely not on Keith or Wes's side.
You had 5 people that did step down that clearly felt very comfortable. But it was interesting when Wes stepped down because he wasn't necessarily in that group of people. So it makes you wonder then, do Wes and Keith have an idol? Are they sharing it? Or what really is happening here?
And then all of a sudden it's bam, idols are everywhere, idols are everywhere. I say stick to the plan. You know, at this point.
Oh my gosh, stick to the plan. Why would you say that directly to Reed? Keith thought Reed was flip-flopping, and now everyone knows something is amiss. This could have been a clean blindside of John. Instead, now everyone knows something is happening that they don't know about. Nale tells John to play his idol. He's like, are you sure? And Nale's like, yes, play your idol, you idiot. So they all go to vote, and
Thank you. This is a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast for John will not count.
You play it.
This too is a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast for Keith will not count. First vote. John does not count. John does not count. John does not count. John does not count. Keith does not count. Keith does not count. Keith, nobody with any vote. 9th person voted out and the 3rd member of our jury. Wes, you need to bring me your torch. Wes, the tribe has spoken.
It sucks because I knew I could have went farther, and I knew I could have went longer, and I'm not the guy that gives up, and you know, food's my weakness, and I caved into the food at the time, so I do regret that decision on stepping off and eating them wings, but you gotta wing it sometimes and take risk, and you gotta risk it to get the biscuit. He says stick with the plan, and he's not supposed to do that. I told him just to play it cool. Don't, you know, make it seem like John, is going home tonight.
He idled out his own son. I mean, seriously, Wes is 100% gone thanks to Keith. And a funny side note, Wes checks into Ponderosa at 160 pounds, but by the very next day, he has eaten so much that he is now back up to 171. He gained 11 pounds in one day. Wow. Back at camp, Keith says, well, that didn't go how I hoped, and Reed and Alec are rightfully mad at him. Keith says he feels bad he played the out for himself and not Wes. They then go to the reward challenge where Keith, Reed, and Alec are eliminated first, so the remaining fivesome of Natalie, Missy, Baylor, John, and Jacqueline are discussing who should we let win, and Jeff gets super annoyed at them again and says, why are we wasting our time doing this challenge? If you're just gonna predetermine a winner, go ahead and pick your winner and we'll just proceed from there. So Missy, quote unquote, wins and takes Baylor and Natalie on reward. Reed then gets in a fight with Baylor, including calling her a brat, and thankfully this time, Keith keeps his mouth shut. But then we go to the immunity challenge where Keith's game is definitely on the line.
He does! Keith wins individual immunity! Keith cannot be voted out tonight. Guaranteed a 1 in 7 shot at winning this game.
That is just what he needed. Now at camp, there's a lot of drama that goes on between John and Jacqueline, but it doesn't involve Keith, so who cares? Even a tribal council, I mean, like the whole tribal council is like this one big therapy session. Keith is not involved. So they all go to vote, and
10th person voted out and the 4th member of our jury, Reed. Reed, the tribe has spoken. How did you?
It is either Alec or Keith next. That fivesome are now dominating the game. Natalie wins the next reward challenge and takes John and Jacqueline with her since Missy and Baylor went on the last reward. And in typical Missy and Baylor fashion, they whine and moan and they're upset. We have to watch you all enjoy it. Oh, what else is new? They say that seeing these other people going on reward feels like rubbing in their faces. We cut to Keith who says, I'm used to it. Back at camp, we see John and Jacqueline sleep so much that it makes Keith upset. And in the secret scene, we see him say they have to go home.
They ain't been awake 2 hours this whole day. I don't know why y'all are keeping them around. They sleep all night and they sleep all day. That just burns my butt when they're awake 2 hours out of the day. And they slept all night last night. That throws, I mean, I don't want to get everybody upset, but I just can't help myself but to say something.
Today, he started stirring it up a little bit. I mean, he was just ticked off because John and Jacqueline were laying around. And now he's just scrambling to anybody who'll listen.
They just burn my butt.
Yeah, you're not the only one who feels like that.
Okay, and I know y'all do. It's not like you're blind.
Just be patient, though. I promise we see it. Trust me.
We all just calmed him down a little bit. We have no idea what he's gonna do, what he's gonna say. The reality is our Fab Five is strong. We've got Keith completely on the outside, and he's probably next to go.
Believe it or not, Natalie actually agrees with Keith and says she wants John out. Not because of the sleeping thing, but because multiple people are fiercely loyal to John. However, John wins immunity, disrupting Natalie's plan, and now John wants Keith out since he is a threat to win challenges. Natalie says, no, not tonight. Tonight we vote off Alec because I think Keith would help me vote off John. So at Tribal Council, they all vote, and
first vote, Keith. Keith. That's 3 votes, Keith. Alec. Alec. We're tied. 11th person voted out and the 5th member of our jury. Alec. Alec, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 13 starts off with John saying, what the heck? Why'd you all vote off Alec when Keith is the biggest threat here? I mean, the answer is because Alec was unlikely to vote off John, and Natalie needs some help moving forward to get this John thing happening. We're running out of tribal councils. So finally, Keith and Natalie talk some strategy.
Man, it seems like I just keep squeaking by, squeaking by, squeaking by.
They don't know that it was that I did that. So me, you, Missy, and Baylor, we gotta be tight.
Maybe I have somebody now. Can you believe that? 30 days into this baby and I've got Nat? Good grief, what could happen after that? Who knows?
Don't pay those two any mind.
Well, you mean this from Miss Prom Queen or Homecoming Queen? Don't worry about that.
Hey, Keith might actually have an alliance for once. We shall see if it can get him to the final 3 or not. So we go to the reward challenge where Keith, John, and Missy are on the same team. And while going across this massive teeter-totter, Missy twists her ankle bad. I mean, it's really bad. They do win the reward challenge regardless, but then medical checks out Missy's ankle and they're like, ooh, yeah, something might be broken. I mean, we can't force you out of the game because we can only do that once life or death, but yeah, you're not in good shape. And Missy's like, I'm staying in. So they wrap up the lower half of her leg. And now what makes this funny is how in the finale of this season, Jeff will talk to this child. His name is Austin. He's a Make-A-Wish kid who designed this exact challenge. And Jeff asks him if he has anything to say. And Austin says, yes, I just wanted to help the show. You're welcome. Just rubbing salt in Missy's wound. And what's even funnier is that as of the time of this video, Austin was hired onto the Survivor Challenge department staff. The show must really hate Missy. Anyways, Keith goes on the spa reward and...
Yeah, it's a girl thing, but as long as this food's here, it's a guy thing.
Yep.
I've never had a spa day or spa food.
I come out here looking like George Clooney.
Then it was off to the massage.
Keith at a spa was pretty dang funny.
I can't breathe.
And I hadn't seen that side of Keith before.
I don't get around to many of these in Louisiana.
I had a realization of like, Keith's kind of cool.
I've never had a massage before. I mean, don't tell nobody about all that, you know. I don't want the guys at the fire station knowing I'm going to masseuse him, you know, all this other extracurricular stuff.
Natalie then wins immunity over John, and back at camp, John still wants Keith out, but momentum is clearly swinging against John. Natalie says to Keith, here's the plan. We are going to pretend to have everyone against you, so I need you to act depressed at Tribal and not blow up the John Blindside, aka please don't do a stick to the plan 2.0. So at Tribal Council, Keith does just that and acts desperate. He's actually nailing the role. On a separate note, this has never made a big deal of in the show, but from the time that Missy twists her ankle to now, Keith just helps her everywhere. He's the only one we see consistently doing it. So that's really cool of him. They all go to vote and...
First vote. Keith. Jacqueline. Keith. Jacqueline. John. John. We have a three-way tie. We're gonna re-vote. Jacqueline, John, Keith, you will not vote. Baylor, Missy, Natalie, you can only vote for one of those three. First vote, John. 12th person voted out and the 6th member of our jury, John. John, tribe spoken.
It is now the final five. Natalie versus Missy versus Baylor versus Jacqueline versus Keith. Can Keith reach the final three? And if he does, can he get the votes necessary to win it all? Well, in the intro package for the finale, Jeff presents Keith as our underdog option, and that is more than fair, as Keith has never been in the majority alliance. That makes sense. Keith says, I'm going to continue to have a PMA, positive mental attitude. With John blindsided, his girlfriend Jacqueline is massively upset as she fights with Natalie back at camp. I mean, they're screaming at each other. You see, Jacqueline doesn't understand why anyone doesn't love her and John. They're just so perfect. Keith is like, woo boy, I love me a cat fight. He then wins the reward challenge, which gives him an advantage in the upcoming immunity challenge, and he will need that immunity bad since everyone else wants Keith gone now. So what's the advantage he has won? Well, he gets to practice for as long as he wants in advance. This is huge. We then see a secret scene where Missy says, I hope Keith fails.
Coordination and a delicate touch are all you need to score. Be the first to score all three, and you've made it to the final four.
Coordination
and a delicate touch.
Keith won an advantage to today's immunity challenge. I mean, it's scary, but if he chokes, that's our advantage. And I've seen him choke. I've seen him do that before when he feels like there's heat on him.
Go! Keith has his first ball through. Keith has his second ball. One left for Keith. Keith wins individual immunity, guaranteed a spot in the final four. Keith cannot be voted out of this game. You're guaranteed a spot in the final four.
Perfect timing. Keith needed that win bad. Back at camp, he tries pitching and saying Jacqueline needs to go, and yeah, that seems like that's what's gonna happen. And at Tribal Council, they all go to vote, and
I'm playing this for Jack.
Okay. This is a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast for Jacqueline will not count. Jacqueline does not count. Jacqueline does not count. Jacqueline does not count. Baylor, 13th person voted out and the 7th member of our jury. Baylor. Baylor, the tribe has spoken.
I mean, that works too. Sure, it's not Jacqueline, but really anyone but Keith is fine at this point. Back at camp, the women say we need to do everything in our power to make sure Keith doesn't win. At this point, I am not sure what the worry is with Keith. I mean, sure, he'll get Wes's vote at the end, but Does he really have the majority of the jury to win this game? Sure, he's likable, but he hasn't shown any strategic chops. I'm not sure if he would win. Maybe he would, I just don't know for sure. I mean, how is he more of a threat than Nale or Jacqueline? You know what I mean? Missy is obviously a GOAT, that I get. So at the immunity challenge, Keith's game is on the line.
Yeah! Jacqueline wins! Individual immunity, guaranteed a spot in the final 3!
Well, that sucks. That's probably it for his game. But maybe, just maybe, he can pitch why Missy should go over him. I think this is the wrong person to pitch, as Natalie is a much better option than Missy, but Keith has had no social sway in this game all season, and I am not sure why that would change now. So at Tribal Council, they all vote, and...
First vote. Keith. Missy. Keith.
14th person voted out, the 8th and final member of our jury. Keith, Travis spoke.
It's a lifetime. It's in the top 5 anyway. It's my wife, my first boy, and my second boy, and then probably this. Maybe it's top 4. I've had a heck of a time, heck of a run making it to the Final Four. I'm not the best player in Survivor history, never will, never said I was. I got a slow start. I've missed episodes. I couldn't tell you who was the 3rd person voted out last year. A bunch of people here could, but they didn't make it to the Final Four. Me and Wesley are close. I think it brought us closer that here's Dad and son out here doing something that very few people get to do. It's something that you don't dream of. You'll never do this again. First thing I'm gonna do is hug my wife and my boy, my other boy. I don't know if I'll be able to tell her. I said, well, you watch these episodes and we'll see how you think I did, and she will. She'll probably be surprised.
So let's break this down. How is Keith Nale as a character? Keith is all character. He is a hard worker, he's funny, and he's naturally nice. He gets work done and is pretty much no nonsense. He's hilarious. I mean, I know I said he's funny earlier, but really, Keith's hilarious. And I think his kindness is what really endears people to him. You can be funny, but you could be mean, and Keith is not mean. He's just funny and nice. Keith's just Keith. Like, he's not trying to be anyone else or put on a show. He's just like a guy who happened to come from Louisiana and happened to be put on Survivor, you know what I mean? It's kind of refreshing in this era of models and actors dominating the cast. On almost any season, I think Keith would have done equally well since his personality is timeless and he isn't a jerk. He's just Keith. Out of 22 character moments shown on the show, 18 were heroic and 4 were villainous, making Keith Nale a hero character on Survivor San Juan del Sur. Now, how is Keith Nale as a strategist? It's a good thing Keith is such a great guy because he clearly had no idea what he was doing for most of this game. I mean, he had no social sway at any point. As I said before, I think Keith saw the show before he came on, but I think he probably watched it very casually, didn't think too much about it, and therefore he played like he kind of understood what was going on, but not really. Keith was a hard worker who did well in challenges and got pretty much as far as he could without being viewed as a threat. And he needs to thank John because John was a huge shield for him. Unintentionally, but he was. Keith wasn't bad, but no one should model their strategic game after him from this season either. Out of 44 strategic moments shown on the show, 24 were smart and 20 were dumb, making Keith Nale a smart strategist on Survivor San Juan del Sur. Thanks for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. I look forward to making the next Keith video, by the way. See you all next time.